more suitable to understand the role of PubAD in developing countries. All the aspects. Like what? So how developing country is different from why? What is so unique about developing country? Okay, monopoly of the government is there. Welfare states. When you are saying developing country, there will be obviously welfare states. So welfare states where the role of the administration is more. Okay, so which approach will be more suitable? And the structure is not important. All are important. Okay, why? Because every approach or every perspective is giving you a different dimension of public administration. So if you have to understand the culture of the organization, or let's say the motivations, the mentality, the belief system of the bureaucracy, then you have to study the behavior aspect. If you want to know how the scope of the government is increasing or decreasing, then the functional aspect. Obviously the scope will be very broad. Okay. Broader view, is it applicable?
Yes,
Why? No, because the administration is the only institution. Probably in the developing countries there has not been emergence of other alternative institutions. So the dependence of all the organs of the state on the administration is very high. You see how the interaction will increase, because there is only one system which is basically used for serving. So even the influence of the legislature or the judiciary or even the other institutions cannot be neglected as far as the administration is concerned. When the systems become more specialized, that is the developed country. Okay. Then you can say distinctiveness can be created. Otherwise, it is impossible. Okay. There is something like a hodgepodge. Okay. Most like anarchy. So in the developing countries, what happens? The administration becomes the main instrument, and that is why its power increases. Okay. So let us now go and explore the other aspects. Okay. So till now, have you understood why we are doing all this? क्लास के बाद पूछो, ठीक है? मतलब अभी जरूरत है उसकी. बिहेवियर और एनालिटिक क्यों एक सेम है, ये बताओ भाई. एनालिटिक स्ट्रक्चर का मतलब क्या है? व्हाट इज द मीनिंग? एनालिटिक स्ट्रक्चर मीन्स दैट सर्टेन थिंग्स आर नॉट और दे कैनॉट बी क्वांटिफाइड. ठीक है? तो बिहेवियर मतलब क्या? ऑब्वियसली बिहेवियरल एस्पेक्ट्स आर वेरी डिफरेंट. बिहेवियरल एस्पेक्ट्स आर ऑल्सो डायनेमिक इन नेचर, नो डाउट. Analytic structure का मतलब क्या है? That we can view some things as physical and some things non-physical, the same thing. So every physical aspect will have one physical and one non-physical aspect. That is analytic aspect. ठीक है? Behavior भी क्या है? Behavior is subject to change. लेकिन analytic structure का मतलब क्या है? वो permanent है. अगर मैरिज का perception change होगा, no doubt. ठीक है? Maybe. Okay. But when we view marriage as a system, okay, there are some predefined notions, no? That is analytic structure. तो structure बोलने का मतलब है कि वो permanent होगा. ठीक है? But I am not saying it is permanent till eternity. ठीक है? Kindly ask the doubt after the class. Okay. Okay. Anybody else has this doubt? Analytic structure. ठीक है? Don't be too technical about it. Just try to understand. भाई एक ideological है, एक physical है. ठीक है? Let us go. Okay. Fine. So, along with whatever the perspectives we have studied, the definition of public administration itself has undergone numerous changes. Okay. So today we'll try to define certain aspects of public administration from the theorist perspective. How many theorists have tried to define public administration? Okay, so there is a classification. Okay, you write. Defining the scope, give a heading. Defining the scope of public administration. Okay, so there is a theorist known as Burrell and Morgan. Okay, so they have made a quadrant. The classification or the scope, that okay, how the content of public administration will emerge. Okay, what we'll study in public administration. So Burrell and Morgan, they have given a classification here. Okay. Objective, subjective. Political, organizational. Now yesterday we said welfare state. So welfare state means what? Obviously there is a political system. So public administration, when we view it with respect to a state, a kind of state or the nature of state, then our perception of public administration would be something else. When we are viewing public administration as an organization, we are viewing it more internally. Okay, how it looks like, how it functions, what are the internal structures. When we are looking public administration with respect to a political system, then the perception is more based on external aspect. Are you getting this? Now that is the political subjective aspect, political objective aspect, organizational objective aspect, organizational subjective. Now political objective means what? All the knowledge which is developed in public administration, which relates to the study of public administration in a political system. But this knowledge is mostly of scientific nature. The scientific study of public and all the theories which emerged, later we will classify them. Okay, so we have to keep this classification throughout when we study more and more theories. All the theories and the knowledge which developed in public administration, which tried to understand the role of public administration in a political system objectively, that is rationally. There are various theories which emerged, which tried to study the role of public administration in a democracy, and that too in a rational manner. That how we can universalize the knowledge of public administration within a political system. Okay. Then various theories which tried to study the public administration as organization, and that too in rational manner, like the financial management, personnel management, recruitment methods, accounting, budgeting, principles of administration, so many things. Okay, they fall under this domain. Political subjective. Let us say India is also democracy and US is also democracy. What is the difference? The culture, okay, belief systems, religion, so many things. That means there are so many socio-cultural aspects. In spite of both of them being politically similar, their socio-cultural aspects will differ. The way they attain the democracy and the way we attain the democracy, that is also different. So, when we study the public administration with respect to a political system, even though in various countries the political system may be similar, but public administration may not be similar. Or the knowledge that we have to use to understand the public administration, it will differ from one political system to, or one society to another. That is known as the political subjective. Okay, so here you can write where we are more concerned with the cultural context. Okay, or it becomes more contextual in nature. The social milieu approach. Okay, that means the various sociological factors will influence the study of public administration. So many theories, many models emerged as a consequence of this. Even when you talk about organization, okay, there are certain things which can be universalized, like I said, techniques of financial management, budgeting, accounting, universalized. But there are certain things which cannot be. Just now, he was asking that, okay, behavior. So when you study the humans in the organization, can that be totally objectively studied? Impossible. So the organizational subjective perspective is mostly related to the behavior, or we use a term OB, organizational behavior. Those aspects of public administration, okay, in spite of the administration being, okay, in different systems differently, those aspects of public administration which are more or less similar here. Those aspects of public administration as an organization which are not similar here. Can you give me an example? Now bureaucracy is there in India also, bureaucracy is there in England also. Is the nature of exam same? Why not? It is same. We have inherited that exam from them only. Okay. Now the nature of recruitment and the examination in the US, totally different. Even though it is a bureaucracy. Okay. Nature of examination in some other country, totally different. Why? The basis of recruitment may be different. The mode of training may be different. Okay. Maybe here gender, human rights, justice, many things are required here, law. Maybe those knowledge is not required there. Okay. So various aspects of public administration as an organization that we study, that is subject to change, even human behavior, that is also correct. The mentality of the bureaucrat in UK is not similar to the mentality of the bureaucrat in India. So how will you know? Bureaucratic culture of US different from bureaucratic culture of India. Okay. So how can you understand? Only when you treat that the public administration in spite or maybe having the similar structure may not have the similar behavior. So that is studied under the organizational subjective perspective. Political, why we are using only these two frames, organizational and political. Because see, this is the public administration as a system, and this is where the public administration can be located. By the immediate system which influences the public administration is what? The politics. Okay. There may be economic system, there may be culture, society, so many things. But what we are saying, that administration is working directly under the executive. So what is the system which influences it the first? It is the political system. So if we have to evaluate it with respect to its location, the first study should be of the political system and then probably the other systems. Okay. Also the context is democracy. So we are more concerned with the study or the performance of administration with the democracy. Is this classification clear? I may say not very much, but at least the category, the way it has been categorized, that aspect is clear. What do we study here? What do we study here? Here. This is clear? Clear है? तो आवाज इतने धीरे क्यों बोल रहे हो? So political objective, political subjective, organizational objective, organizational subject. This is the major classification. You can say, you can define the entire study of public administration, paper 1. Okay, most of the theories which developed through this. Let's say administrative reform, कहाँ पे आएगा? Organization level पे आएगा, और it may come in various quadrants. It's not necessarily it will come only one place. Organization, you need to reform the structure also, behavior also, correct, culture also, and you need to reform political. नहीं हो सकता. क्यों नहीं हो सकता ये बताओ. हो सकता है. आपने बोला तो you said from welfare state to neoliberal, okay, from a socialist economy to LPG. ठीक है, transition है. Not necessarily only the political system, but politico-economic system has changed. Okay. Policy making has changed, state's role has changed, power has changed. So obviously the role of administration has to be studied with respect to that. So administrative reforms can come in all of them. Okay. If I say changing the structure or certain principles of organization, वो कहाँ पे आएगा? No, it's not objective. ठीक है. Electoral reforms. Political subjective. Okay, that means you have understood now, so it's okay. Let us move then. So this Burrell and Morgan classification is very important, at least to understand the scope of public administration. Okay. So many theorists are there, okay, who have tried to study or provide various definitions to public administration. Write few of them. Okay, then we'll discuss. Right. Public administration has been defined by various theorists according to their perception of the role public administration plays in a society within a political system. For example, Ordway Ted, O-R-D-W-A-Y, Ordway Ted, defines within quotes, public administration is a moral act. Public administration is a moral act, and administrator is a moral agent. Public administration is a moral act, and administrator is a moral agent. Now let us interpret this definition. Okay. How come it becomes a moral act? Just yesterday we said it is an instrument used by the political system to achieve certain ends which has been decided. So his definition seems to be too ideological. Okay, but well accepted that yes, public administration is a moral act. How it is a moral act? In what way does it impact the moralities of the society? It changes, or it is the torchbearer of the moral principles of the society?
It comes under organizational subjectives.
No, that is leave that. Now tell me about this.
It depends on behavior more.
Okay. No, but can you tell me some specific aspects of morality which are there within the administration?
Like when an administrator has to take a decision, he has to decide whether it is morally right or wrong.
So it might be in
Might
the
be a
context of
Okay. His basis of decision making may not be purely rational or cost benefit. Okay.
so it might be in the context of those requirements like civil service values which are required, impartiality is
Correct.
integrity, all those.
वो भी सही है. Correct. That is, both are correct. When you talk about something known as the public interest, so when we say who is a manager, ठीक है, थोड़ा खुश रहो. Manager कौन है बताओ? Who is manager? An administrator. So if you say manager and administrator are same, so it's better to go to IAMS, become CEO and serve the society. They are also serving the society. Corporate social responsibility. You can serve. Narayan Murthy is serving better than Lalu Prasad, I think. At least all of you will agree. Okay. So, आप वहाँ क्यों नहीं जाते बताओ? The kind of organizational setup a private sector may have, okay, it may be based on certain various, or which may be based on certain different premises. On what a public organization is based. Okay, emergence of, let's say, Ministry of Women and Child Development. Okay. Will a private sector create such a department? Let's say it might be interested in customer satisfaction, customer interest, but will it create such a department? No. Even gender cells were absent in most of the private sector organizations. Even in public it was not there, but still, public is subject to the scrutiny of the people. Okay. So you see, the basic philosophical ideals or the basic values which guide a public organization, they are different from the private organization. So the definition is trying to say that an administrator is not only serving or not only fulfilling or delivering certain goods and services, but he is also the carrier of the values of the society. Okay. How it is depicted in the behavior of the bureaucrats. Your judges, public servants, various restrictions are imposed on their public behavior. Okay. And not only in public life, but also in their personal life. Those restrictions may not be required for a private sector. What they can say, what they can speak, how they will behave, how they will act. Okay. Plus, treating people as citizen and not just as a customer. Okay. When you are a customer, you pay and you go. When you are a citizen, even if the service is delivered, still it is my duty to find out whether you have been satisfied or not. If you are not satisfied, then I will take up the responsibility on myself that okay, I have to deliver the service to you, and that kind of service is obviously unquantifiable. It depends upon your perception of how good I am working. So you are like a moral conscience keeper of the society. If you say I am a system which implements the constitutional values, so what are constitutional values? They obviously have an influence, at least undercurrent of ethics and morality. So your justice, equity, equality, and so many things. So we can say that this is a very comprehensive definition given by TED, which can be used various places. So it says that administrator is not serving some goods or services. He is not conscious of just the quality of goods and services, but also the manner in which it has to be served. So it is not just the packaging, but also the delivering process. Both are necessary for the administrator, whereas for a manager, once the supply chain management, his work is over. Okay. His responsibility is only probably to that extent, not more than that. Okay, right? The public organizations are based on the constitutional values, even if there might not be a constitution, but they are based on constitutional values like equity, leave some space, equality, rule of law, public interest, protection of vulnerables, justice. So, you see, the basis of the formation of the organization itself is this. So, it is impossible that organization can work without these values. So, the people who are working in the organization, they have to be deliberately trained in these values. Okay, they may not be efficient. Okay, but they definitely have to carry these values. So, even when we recruit people to these services or to these organizations, our prime consideration is that are they able to or can they be molded towards these values? They may not be very intelligent, but do they have the public sensitivity or not? Are they empathetic towards the people's problems or not? Will they be sensitive enough to act when the citizen demands? Okay, so these are the guiding values of the administration and not just the efficiency or the profit. So we say these values are necessary or they are the binding forces on a public administration. What are these values? What is equity? Let us define. Treating equal, correct? But कैसे होगा ये? You.
Equality is covered with justice, it becomes equity.
Okay, let us say, well, let us simplify it. Okay. That is what the problem of POBAD is. We know so much, but we don't simplify. Okay, unless you simplify, you cannot score marks. So you know till the epitome of the knowledge. There is no restriction. Know it. But when you write it, simplify it. Okay. But unless you conceptually understand, you cannot simplify. That is also a drawback. Let us say your friend orders a pizza. Okay. And the moment the order comes, you enter his, you enter his room. Okay. Now he says, okay, out of courtesy, obviously he never wanted to, but still, out of courtesy, he offers you that, okay, fine, you have it. Okay. What will the best way of distributing it? 1 by 4? There are 4 people, there is 1 pizza, 1 by 4. Okay. Now that is equality. Okay. Now one of them is honest enough to accept that, okay, I just had dinner or lunch, I won't have it. Then what is the best way of distributing it? 1 by 3. Okay, that is also equality. Now all of them accept that, okay, yes, we have taken food. Okay, I took breakfast, I took lunch, I took dinner. So there will be a relative degree of hunger, not equal hunger within them. So what will happen? Now distribute it. You need more, you take more. You need less, you take less. Okay, but there is no disparity. The distribution may be different, but disparity is not there. That is equity. Okay. So when you are saying that to each according to his needs, okay, this is important, it is needs, not the greed. Okay. So when each according to his need is given, then it is equity. So reservation is equitable, it is not equality. Okay, obviously on the ground of equality it may not be accepted. Okay. But providing reservations, whether to women or to certain communities, or for that matter providing special provisions for handicaps or some in the metro transportation and this, it is basically equity. Because they require more state protection and more state support, so they are given more. Okay. Equality is the distribution in a fair manner. Okay, an equal distribution, you can say. Equal distribution. Okay, that is also a good basis. Okay, obviously, it is very difficult to find out how much one has eaten. So it's better to distribute it equally. That's better. Okay. But here, various problems may emerge. We'll discuss. Okay, just now. Rule of law, that you must be knowing. Okay. Rule of law is a specific feature of the democracies. Okay. At least synonymous to the democracy. So rule of law has 2 concepts, equality, in fact 3 you can say, one is part of this only, equality before law, and within this the equal protection of law. So equality before law and equal protection of law, this is treating everyone equal in front of the law. And this treats people unequally in front of the law. Okay, what does this mean? Okay. People in similar circumstances will be treated similarly. People in dissimilar circumstances will be treated dissimilarly. So under the concept of equal protection of law, a fair discrimination, you can say positive discrimination or whatever, affirmative policy. So fair discrimination is possible here. Okay, you go to see Article 14, Article 15 or 16 of the Indian Constitution. Equality before law, or 15 is about protection against discrimination based on or equal opportunity based on this. Okay. Discrimination, protection against discrimination in matters of public employment, Article 16 and so on. So what it is saying, notwithstanding the above, special provisions can be made for women, children and socially and educationally backward classes. So the provision that notwithstanding the above means what? It is the equal protection of law. Dissimilar people or people in dissimilar circumstances will be treated differently. Obviously a poor will be treated differently from a rich because their circumstances are different. Second is obviously nobody can be harmed in body and goods except for a distinct breach of law. So rule of law also includes there is a non-discretionary behavior. Nobody can behave in a discretionary manner. Okay, what is given has to be followed. Okay, so nobody can be harmed except there is a breach of law, and it will be defined. That what is illegal will be defined. Then only when you act illegally, then only you are subject to punishment, otherwise not. Fine. So let us say this is also the fundamental canon, or it is like a rule to be followed by whosoever is working within the public organization. Okay. Then comes the most important, the public interest. How you define the public interest? Well, let us come to that. It requires a little bigger discussion. So all of you agree that the public administration primary task is to serve the public interest. Public interest, how you define public interest? I need a BMW 320i. That is my interest. Okay. Can that be called as public interest? Obviously no. Right. So even the poor want good houses, good cars. Who wants to be poor? Nobody. So we can make everyone rich, and then we can say, yes, we have served the public interest. No, but even the rich also need some benefits. Or you can say, okay, basic minimum, beyond that it is a desire, okay. But there will be something public interest. So when I am making a policy, as a government we are making a decision, we must evaluate it. If I am making a dam, for example, leave that, car, building, okay. If I am making a dam, if I am constructing a highway, so how will you evaluate that, okay, this highway should be here only? Correct. The moment we say that, okay, it might serve the interest of many people, not obviously everyone, but it might serve the needs of maximum people, we say, okay, yes, it is good. Okay. Majority is satisfied, it is good. But that is not a correct basis. Because if say maximum people are happy with the beef ban, so it is good. Again, it is acceptable, it is correct, it is legitimate. Why so much of debate? So in any country, if 85% or 82% people are happy with somebody, it is enough number. Even in class, we say that, okay, out of 30 or 25 को समझ में आ गया, it's okay, ठीक है, बहुत अच्छा है. So logically, everywhere we cannot ensure the absoluteness. Even the government feels like, okay, dam बन गया, ठीक है. At least we have made a road. Okay, it might break every year, but at least we are delivering the road. Okay. That means what? There must be some basis of finding out what is the public interest. Okay, now let us deal with this. It's a very important part, because without knowing the public interest, okay, there is no logic of knowing the public administration. So the public interest is a very subjective way. It's a non-rational criteria. You cannot define it. Why? Because highly qualitative, it is subjective in nature, may be abstract. People might be highly judgmental in ensuring or at least understanding what is public interest. So it has all the aspects which make it totally non-rational. I won't say irrational, because irrational is the outcome of a psychopathic mind. Non-rational is even if we cannot calculate but will take logical steps. Okay, so non-rational criteria. So how to find out? Now it is better to go through a theoretical route. So there are various philosophies of public interest, okay, or various principles of public interest which help us to evaluate whether as a state or even as an administration or even as individual administrator, that okay, is the basis of this or is this basis of taking the decision correct or not, whether it will lead to a good consequence or not, right? Let us find out, see. So various philosophies of public interest. Okay, there may not be concrete guidelines, they may be only basis of evaluation. Okay. So there are some major philosophies of public interest, like number 1, intuitionism. Intuitionism Intuitionism says, okay, now, okay, many times, let's say individual, when you take decisions, okay, in similar situations you may not take the similar decisions, because it may not be a very rational way of taking decisions, because we individuals are subject to casualness, we are subject to environmental influences. So many times in the similar situation we may not take the similar decisions. Okay. But imagine an administrator, the one who is going to act and trying to evaluate his act, that whether it is in the public interest or not. Okay. Now if there is a defined way of doing things, what will happen? Every time we may assume the consequence would be similar, in similar circumstance. But circumstances may not be similar always. Then what to do? Now try to understand. Is it possible for every different social, cultural circumstance I can create a method of taking decision? Is it possible? No. Then what should we do? We can equip the administrator with sense of, or ethical and moral sense, and the knowledge and the skill that, okay, why don't you interpret what is going on, okay, and whether it is communalism, whether it is communal riot, whether it is some crime or whatever, disaster, flood, okay, you also must be able to interpret the situation and then act. There may be various modes of action, which one is better to choose? Interpret and then act. Are you understanding this logic? So intuitionism believes in that. It says that who should decide what is public interest? Who understands what is public interest better? The one who is delivering it. So there must be a discretion available, a small amount of flexibility. Okay. Maybe not very small, but at least a small amount of flexibility available to the administrator who is delivering the public interest, and he is the first or he is the best person to judge what is a public interest. So instead of defining what is public interest, let us develop a basis that what is the basis? It is the administrator who is the best judge of what is public interest. So this philosophy believes that, okay, leave it to the one who is doing it. He is sensible enough, he has been trained, he has the knowledge, and probably he has the ethical sense to deliver the things in the interest of the people. Let it do it. So it is a very good way, no doubt. Okay, but can it be acceptable totally? Why? Because today you are feeling good, so you may act good. Okay. Tomorrow your wife and child would have punctured you for something. Okay. So tomorrow you may not act that way. The examiner, इसीलिए they call them to UPSC and check the copies. If they tell them to take the copies back homes, then you can understand what will happen. Okay. So the logic is that, okay, yes, it depends to a large extent on the will of the administrator. He might take good decisions, he might take bad decisions. Okay. And if we develop this kind of principles and we accept the principles, what will happen? Over the time the bureaucrats may tend to misuse this discretion. Because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So the moment the tendency of lack of control is visible, that very moment they may result in discretionary decision. Discretionary decision may not always be in the public interest. Okay. You see what happens? The discretion given in the field of crime prevention, जिसको हम एनकाउंटर बोलते हैं. So it has not always been beneficial. AFSPA, discretion given to the army people, to the paramilitary in certain areas, may not be always beneficial. So even if the assumption is there that administrator is equipped enough to handle certain situations and he has the knowledge to understand and interpret the situation, still giving discretion may not be in the interest of people. But you can say in certain areas, not bad. Science and technology, research and development, academic endeavors, you can give him discretion. Plus, this kind of principle is a kind of heuristic learning. What is heuristic learning?
Doing and learning.
Trial and error type. Trial and error. Do it, learn it. Do it, learn it until you perfect it. When you will perfect it, nobody knows. So, it is a kind of heuristic learning. More based on the experience of the administrator. Discretionary. So, may not be totally acceptable, but yes, it is used. Even today also, in number of areas, the government gives the discretion to the public administrators. The more they move at the higher levels, the discretion to make decisions increases. Even though they may not be political appointees, they are not the representatives, but they may be taking various decisions which influence directly the citizens. My national security advisor, hai na? NSA is what? NSA is a bureaucrat. But he has been given huge leverage as far as the national security is concerned. Even though that decision may belong to the defense minister and the foreign affairs minister technically. But sometimes at the cost of it's okay. Abhi theek? So it is very much possible that the citizens' interest or the community interest may be bypassed by certain individuals for their own benefit. Somebody highly influenced by, or somebody being non-secular in nature, influenced by the religious ideologies, what will he do? He may not act in the public interest. Motivated by community values, may more actions or decision in favor of his community, and so on. Right. You write few things. Intuitionism. Right. This principle believes that the administrator is the best person to judge. The administrator is the best person to judge what is the public interest. This principle provides discretion to the public administrator or administrator. This principle provides discretion to the administrator while making decisions and implementing policies. its biggest limitation is that its biggest limitation is that it assumes that administrators are capable of making moral and ethical decisions. In spite of the best training and qualification, in spite of the best training and qualification, in spite of the best training and qualification, the discretion may result in misuse of authority. Misuse of authority either as, number one, likhiye, either as malfeasance. How the abuse of authority will be reflected? Either in the form of a malfeasance, what is it? Galat intention. Okay. Wrong or deliberately doing something wrongly. So where the motive or the intention is wrong. You are doing it with some other motive, not necessarily the public interest. Or you can camouflage the public interest for your interest. Okay. Or misfeasance. Malfeasance or misfeasance, that is misinterpretation, lack of knowledge. You might not be knowing everything. You might not be skilled enough to deal with a particular situation. You might need the advice of experts, but you might act anyways. So misinterpretation of the law or the fact or non-understanding of the situation may also result in bad consequence. Or overfeasance. When you are given a discretion, you may overstep the jurisdiction. Conflict which is generally visible in the police and other organizations. Okay. CBI versus state police. Intelligence agencies, generally subject to overfeasance. They do not know, or even if they know, because they have been given immense power, like you have ATS or SITs in these states, anti-terrorist squads or special investigation teams. So they result in overfeasance, okay, because they know they have the power. Okay. Or it may be fourth, the error in fact finding. So you might know wrong, or you may get wrong information, you may interpret it and then take a decision. Okay. So IT Act and various other laws have been violated based on this. Even AFSPA, the violation is based on this. When the law says you have to record, okay, you have the right to search, you have the right to shoot, but okay, you have to record. the circumstances and the reasons under which you did this, the name of the person, and what was he doing that compelled you to take this action, but nobody entered into the diary. Okay, there is a provision in the AFSA which says that to the local police station you have to submit this report. Okay, but nobody follows. So you might have an error in fact finding, and you may act, and the consequence may be against the public interest. So providing discretion is not acceptable. Okay, लिखिए. Right. It is also based on heuristic learning, that is trial and error, which might result in different experiences for different administrators. Different experience for different administrators. Okay. This might obstruct the public interest as it might obstruct the public interest as decisions would be taken on case to case basis. What we say as circumstantial. Case to case basis. Okay, so there will be no clarity. In the same situation, one administrator's experience is probably much more wider. Imagine a district collector or an SP, okay, coming from the state civil services. So he has 30 years of experience. Okay, then he becomes an SSP. Okay, and young IPS becomes an SSP in 7 years, whose experience is wider, who maybe your possibility of taking the rational decision is high. Where the person is coming from the state civil service. So if discretion is given, their consequence of their decisions may be very different. In the same circumstances, they may take different decisions. Okay. So there is an inherent subjectivity in this principle. Okay. So this was not accepted as even though intuitionism is still there, as far as, let's say, RTI Act is there. So the interpretation of the question, unless it is framed in a proper manner, the interpretation of the question which has been sent to the PIO, Public Information Officer, that depends on him. There is no rational criteria of evaluating question. If you have written the question, he says, oh, I could interpret that this was the only information required, and he will send the information. So you cannot eliminate intuitionism. It is part and parcel of the bureaucracy. Okay. Police constable, while giving you finding or giving challans for traffic violation. Okay. So let's say 20 people cross the red light together, and there are only 2 constables. So what they will do? Whatever or whosoever comes to there, they will catch him and say, oh, the rest it's okay. Let me go. Intuitionism. Okay. वहीं पे एक imagine there would have been robots doing the same thing. Impossible, nobody can go. So obviously every human system will have a discretion. You cannot eliminate it. But yes, by using better principles, you can reduce it. Okay. There was another principle which was very dominant, not dominant today, but it was dominant throughout the human history, that is known as the perfectionism. People who have elder brothers, they have to face serious disparities and exploitation within the family. Okay. And if the elder brother is a performer, then the exploitation is probably much more pronounced. ठीक है, तो वो आईटी में निकल गया, अब तुम भी निकलो, वो आईएएस में निकल गया, अब तुम भी निकलो, ठीक है. Now perfectionism is what? Perfection is based on that logic. Okay, the people who can perform, or people who are achievers, or people who are supposed to have the potential, the state or the administration, what it does, it promotes only those kind of people. So public interest is what? It is assumed to be the interest of those people who are capable. Okay, like in monarchies, even in England, royal blood, blue blood, people from those promoted to various posts, Indian caste system. Okay, certain people only can occupy certain posts, certain people can only indulge in certain kinds of activities. The puja can be performed only by him, the Brahman, or the rituals are this. What is that? That is perfectionism. Okay. So, the perfectionism believes that, okay, what is public interest? The public interest is the interest of those people who are capable of performing in a society. So, it is a very narrow conception of public interest. But why? Their logic is also different. They are saying that if the society has to grow, it cannot be led by everyone. There will be few who will lead the growth or development of the society. So why not promote their interest? So eventually everybody will benefit. Now that is their logic. Okay. But obviously not acceptable. So if somebody is capable of becoming Tendulkar, then what will happen? The entire sports federation will run after him now. Make him. Okay. Others will be neglected at that cost. So there is an inherent element of exploitation and discrimination in perfectionism. But it was widely practiced. Kings, monarchs, nobles, hereditary nature of monarchy, everything is coming from this perfectionism. Caste, okay. Indian caste system is one of the best examples of perfectionism. Okay. Specific posts occupied by people from specific caste, and it was perceived that they are capable. So it is based on both the things, maybe the factual capability or maybe the perceived capability. You might not have the real capability, but it is perceived that you are capable. Okay. Right, perfectionism okay, believes that the public interest is best served. Public interest is best served by serving the interest of those who are capable. As they are the ones who can be the torch bearers for the societal development. Who can be the torch bearers for societal development. Now see the Congress party. So what is the assumption? That if Gandhi is not there, or if nobody from the Gandhi family is there, then the Congress party cannot run. That is a perception, may not be the fact. Okay, all of you know that. You know? Okay. So, whatever the glamour attached to the Rahul Baba is there, but everybody knows the reality. But it is, see how dynastic rules or how it is entrenched into the system. So perfectionism creates what? It creates an aura of perfection. May not be the reality. Okay. The perception that certain people are capable, whereas others may be not, is based on facts as well as assumptions. Why we are saying facts? Because there are some academic achievers and some may not be academic achievers. Okay. So certain facts are also there behind it, but mostly it is assumption. Okay. For example, the Indian caste system. Or the hereditary nature of monarchies. Etc. Okay. Even the racism, racist, everything is an outcome of that. Okay. Racial discrimination भी add कर सकते हो, comma, racial discrimination, apartheid, all is an outcome of that.
So can we say perfectionism creates structure?
You can say yes, it develops particular kinds of structures for particular kinds of people. You can say that. Okay. There is a story narrated by Amartya Sen in one of his books. Okay. If you know, he got the Nobel Prize for welfare economics, 1998. Okay. In 2004, he wrote a book, he wrote the book 2004 actually it came, known as The Idea of Justice. Okay. So in that he starts with a story. Okay. He's saying that there are 3 children in a jungle and they are fighting, conflict over something. So a person is going, okay, or he's passing through the jungle and he stops and he asks them, okay, why they are fighting. So there is a girl and 2 boys. So he asks them, okay, that what is the reason for the conflict? Okay. The first one, that is the girl. Okay, she says that okay, we are fighting over this flute we have. Okay, ownership of this flute. So he says, okay, why you are fighting? It must be belonging to somebody, someone of you. He said, no, it does not belong to either of us. Okay, but we all have contributed to it. So he said, okay, what is your stand? Why do you want the flute? So that girl said that I was the one who gave them the idea that a wood can be converted to a flute. That means I gave them the entire process of converting the wood to the flute. Then the second one, he said, okay, why do you claim your ownership? Okay. The second one says, see, I actually did it. She gave me the idea, I did it. Okay. Then third one, he said, okay, why do you want the flute? He said, see, I am poor. They have many toys. Okay. They are rich people. Okay. I don't have any toy. If you see, if I get this flute, then the amount of relative satisfaction I will have, okay, they will not have. So I deserve the flute. Okay. Then another child comes. He said, no, I also need the flute. They said, okay, you are not part of this. He said, see, none of you are capable of playing it. I can play it. Okay, I can use it. What is the utility of the flute for you when you cannot play it? Now, who should be given the flute? That is the question. Okay, that is a dilemma of public interest. That who should be given out of this? Who should be given? Those who will use it, but somebody has made it, somebody has given the idea, somebody has intellectual property invested in that. Who should be given according to you? So you may have different perceptions. The Marxist will say it should go to the one who has put the labor. Okay. The perfectionist will say it should go to the one who can play it. Okay. Then the welfarist would say that it should go to the one who is poor. Or the social justice will say it goes to the poor. Okay. Then somebody will say that no, it should go to him, the girl, because she possesses the knowledge. Okay. So there are various bases. So he comes or he argues that okay, it is very difficult to find out what is the public interest. But you see, if we see logically, if we give the flute to the one who can play it, okay, what will happen? he will not restrict the happiness or the use of that fruit to himself, but it will be benefited, or the others will also be benefited through this fruit. Everyone else, the benefit is restricted only to the individual benefit. Okay. The moment somebody starts playing the flute, now you cannot restrict the sound, the benefit of the music to others. So obviously, if we give it to that person who plays, okay, the benefit may go to many people. Okay. But perfectionism, what it's saying, the logic is same. It is saying that, okay, yes, if people can excel, then someday they will create benefits for the others. Okay. But on that basis, till how much time or to what extent can we exploit the others? Okay, that is also not very clear. That till what time should we allow or we should promote these people in the society so that they will create the benefit for the others. Okay. So perfectionism becomes what? It becomes elitist in nature. Okay. Perfectionism tends to be elitist. Perfectionism tends to be elitist. In fact, somewhere you can correct. Elitist in nature or becomes elitist. Okay. Okay. You give one example before we write. Okay, write one. Something right here. For example, okay. For example, the Indian bureaucracy influenced by the British administrative system in its formative years, initial days of evolution, formative years, was dominated by the people from the higher castes, and from particular institutional backgrounds. Now see, people said from 1950s to 1970s, 80s, the dominance of particular universities in the Indian bureaucracy, Allahabad University, BHU, okay, IITs, okay, and so on. So certain institutions were dominant. It was not because they were the only ones or people studying in them were the only ones capable of getting into civil services. But what? The entire recruitment system, okay, it was based on the perfectionism. That, okay, there are certain people who are capable and these are the only people who are capable of doing it. Okay. But you have specific regiments in the army, क्यों बनाते हो? The assumption, guerrilla warfare के लिए गोरखास चाहिए, ठीक है, इसके लिए कोई और चाहिए. That is why they make it. So obviously, even the entire Indian bureaucracy system was, okay, in the initial years, we cannot say it now, but in the formative years of the Indian administration, we see, or it is a fact, that most of the civil servants were coming from the higher caste, the higher strata, especially the Tamil and Brahmins dominated the Indian bureaucracy. And later also, people from some specific or unique academic backgrounds, they entered into the civil services. So it was not that not many other people appeared for the interview, they would have appeared. But what was the institutional perception? That, okay, he is coming from this background and she is coming from this, oh, they are fine. They are good. Okay. So that assumptions cannot be eliminated, it may not be always deliberate. Sometimes this is subconscious also. We develop a kind of culture where we value certain things. Like, the boys must be strong in mathematics. So if a boy starts saying that I'll study history, MA history, BA history, okay, so that very moment his social ostracization will take place. Okay, he wants to study commerce, batao. Okay, now he has to add commerce with maths. Okay, now it's okay. So you see the kind of, what is this? This perception is basically perfectionism. So perfectionism will justify what? The absence of the policies or the programs or decisions which may be for the socially excluded. It will justify it. Why? Because it will say, no, give it to elites, the elites will transform the society. Right? The perfectionism would justify the absence of socially conscious policies. It will justify the absence of socially conscious policies. Like reservations, affirmative actions, subsidies, etc. Reservations, affirmative actions, subsidies, etc. So it will justify it. Why? Because we say there is no need. Why should you promote those people who are dependents? Why not promote those people who are capable? Okay. So perfectionism, whether in monarchies or whether even in democracies, they have always existed. Okay. But we cannot accept it totally now. Okay, today most of the institutions have become representative in nature. Okay, reservation is there, plus you can say most of the policies are designed in such a manner that the first point of reference should be the people who are vulnerable or the minorities or this and this. Not even India, but globally, human rights, justice, so many concepts and more. So you see, later, because these two philosophies could not satisfy the requirement of the study or understanding of public interest, so there emerged one of the most dominant philosophies, not necessarily but one of the most dominant philosophies known as utilitarianism. Utilitarianism, given by Bentham and Mill. Jeremy Bentham and J.S. Mill. Okay, so Bentham and Mill has given the concept of utilitarianism, which can be taken as one of the good principles of public interest, evaluation of public interest. Now, what is utilitarianism saying? That if any action, any decision leads to the maximum benefit of maximum number. Okay, initially when the philosophy came, it was comfort. Maximum comfort to maximum number of people. Anything, if it increases the maximum benefit of maximum number, okay, then it is in the public interest. Now what does it mean? When the philosophy came initially, it said comfort. Okay. But comfort was not acceptable. Why? Because it was having the overtones of only physical or material happiness. Okay, so they removed it and said, no, it will not be comfort, it should be the maximum happiness, maximum benefit. Okay, but not it is material benefit. Okay, so they said maximum happiness for maximum number. Now happiness is obviously a broader concept than the comfort. Are you getting? So they came up with this idea and they said it's okay, that anything which increases the maximum benefit or maximum happiness of the maximum number of people in a particular situation, obviously, okay, then it is the best. It is in the public interest. For example, you are making a dam, so least displacement and most benefit. So it will be what? Maximum benefit for maximum number. Okay. Anything you see the government does, you will find that it is based on the utilitarianism. One of the most pragmatic approaches. Okay. Pragmatic plus fast. It is quite speedy also. Okay. Because obviously government has all the data, everything is there. Okay. The moment government takes a decision, now see the Jammu and Kashmir, what is the policy of the government? It is not giving maximum benefit, but is trying to create least disturbance. So when I say maximum comfort, maximum happiness means what? Least unhappiness also can be included. Is it or not? Least for least or maximum for maximum. Are you understanding this logic? So when I am evaluating the public interest or when I do anything as a government, as a state or as an administration, I use this basis and find out that okay, while I take this route or I take this route, so which one is going to increase the maximum happiness or maximum benefit of the maximum number? If this increases the benefit of 90% and this increases the benefit of 70%, then I must choose this. Are you getting this point? So at least it is giving the government a kind of operational device, a choice. That okay, I can evaluate some 2-3 choices, alternatives, and based on this logic, I can go for a particular choice. Okay. And it also accepts that it is impossible to serve everyone in a particular situation. Not everybody can be satisfied in a particular situation. Absolute satisfaction of everyone impossible. So that way also it is quite practical. There are two models of utilitarianism. One is the act utilitarianism or act utilitarian, and the other is the rule. One is the act utilitarian and the other is the rule utilitarian. What is act utilitarian? Particular actions. If particular actions lead to the benefit of the maximum number of people or happiness of the maximum number of people, then that act is justified. It is in the public interest. Now generalize it. Try to understand. A policeman catches a person and says that okay, you must wear a helmet. If you don't wear a helmet, I will fine you. Or let's say I will not fine you, but you wear a helmet, I am paying you the money. Okay. Once you go back, get the money, give me back. Fine. Now that is an act of what? Increasing the public interest. Okay. So let's say a district collector or an SDM or an inspector in a particular situation does something which increases the benefit of maximum number of people. Now, instead of leaving it to the will of the police officer or the district collector or leaving it to certain circumstances or actions, I generalize it. I make a rule. And I say, in this particular situation, if this happens, then this should be the decision. Why? Because it will maximize the interest of maximum people. Now it becomes rule utilitarianism. When I generalize these specific actions into a framework or into a law, it becomes a rule. So observing rules may lead to maximization of benefit. Like we say, you wear seat belt. By maximum benefit to maximum number, by making or generalizing something, that is, we make it a rule and we follow a rule. Are you getting this rule? In ethics you might study. Okay, when you study your ethics, so act utilitarianism or rule utilitarianism. But you see, even utilitarianism has its own drawback. Because what is first the maximum number, that is very difficult to evaluate. Okay. Now imagine 10 people entered into that house where one pizza was ordered. Okay. Now you revisit that distribution. So 1 by 10. Okay, that is the maximum happiness under the circumstances. to maximum number. All the 10 people can be satisfied with 1 by 10, 1 by 10, 1. Can they be satisfied? No. So sometimes the maximum happiness may lead to actually the minimum benefit to everyone. Because the resources are limited. If I want to distribute the GDP of this country, let us say, today we are $1 trillion, it is okay. Okay, but let us assume that okay, government says that okay, yes, I will distribute or we will distribute the resources of this village into all the members of this village. Okay, that can be done at the village level. Now let us say it says okay, the entire city, now the resource will be distributed amongst everyone. Maximize the distribution. Maximize the distribution. Make everyone happy. Make everyone happy. Is it possible after a point of time? No. As the population and number will increase, what will happen? The amount of the benefit will reduce. होता कि नहीं होता भी? The more number of people, as the population grows and the natural resource is limited or the resource is limited, what happens? The distribution suffers. And this leads to what? This leads to regional imbalances. Some will get more, some will get less. So it is first difficult to distribute first equally. Secondly, how will you find out that okay, what is that maximum? Who is that maximum number? The maximum number can be 70%, 80%, 90%, 99%. May not be 100, but at least it can be 99.99999. So it is, or it will justify that okay, in the particular situation I could not maximize it to 90, so I accepted 75. It's okay. There is nothing wrong. So what will happen? It may justify the benefit of majority at the cost of minority. Okay. It may also justify the absence or a motivation towards the inclusion of all. Because it will justify, it said no, everybody cannot be benefited. What we have done is the maximum possible, and so what we have done is the public interest. Okay. And even if the philosophy talks about maximum number, it nowhere mentions everyone. That means what? Inherent is in the philosophy is the acceptance that we can never extend the benefit to everyone in the society. So it already accepts its own limitation that we can maximize, but we cannot include everyone. Okay. So a part of the population, a part of the people are leaving out a particular section of the society from the public interest will always be justified under the utilitarianism. So again it was criticized. That okay, how? Let us say imagine a large population or a country or like India, 125, 130 crore people. So even if 5 crore are left out, okay, we can duly justify something saying, but 5 crore is a big number. Imagine the population of Australia. How much is that? Nepal? Okay. So you can imagine that nations have population less than 5 crore. But when we do a relative evaluation, then for India 5 crore is nothing. So it will justify the maximum number means 125 बहुत हो गया. Leave them out. Right. So it was criticized on this ground that it will justify the exclusion of certain communities, certain sections of the society always from the public interest. Okay, but as far as the practical application is concerned, yes, it is the best. ठीक है. सबका भला नहीं कर सकते. भीख भी देते हो तो किसको देते हो? एक दो बच्चों को दे देते हो सिग्नल पे. Okay. So if you really want to help them, then you will have to either give it to everyone or do something, go and do something. So logic is that whenever we are acting in utilitarian manner, what we do? We simplify our surrounding. We simplify it. We see, okay, this is what is the fact. Based on this, how can I maximize the benefit of all? Finish. Are you getting this point? Okay. So, it was also criticized. Okay, right. Okay. Believes in the maximum benefit oblique happiness, you can write. Believes in the maximum benefit oblique the happiness for the maximum number of people in a given situation. Okay. It is one of the most pragmatic ways as far as the limited resources are concerned. But in spite of its benefit, it preassumes that certain sections of the society can be safely excluded from the public interest. It seems to be majoritarian in approach. So it should be denied as the basis of public interest? No. Then what should happen? But it also has a limitation, then how to fulfill this limitation? Okay. So another person came, John Rawls. Might have heard his name, not heard. You've heard his name, John Rawls. Okay. So he comes and he provides a solution to this. He criticizes the utilitarianism. Okay. Theory of justice. Theory of justice. Now, theory of justice intellectually is the most dominant approach. Okay. Academically also it is dominant. In fact, it is considered to be the philosophy of public interest. Now, what is philosophy? It is simple. Okay. John Rawls is saying that ensuring equality is not possible. So it's better, like you see, the utilitarianism. Maximum for maximum means what? In the pursuit of equality, what we are doing? We are not achieving equity because we want to maximize the benefit of all, everyone. So ultimately we end up maximizing the benefit of the maximum, but not everyone. So for equality, we are bypassing the equity. Now justice, or John Rawls is coming with a different idea. He is saying, why don't we ensure equity rather than equality? That means create deliberate disparities within the society. And what kind of deliberate disparities? That means what? There are certain people who need less, communities who need less, and certain communities who need more. So the distribution should be in such a manner that the one who requires more should get more, the one who requires less should get less. Now this is his concept of justice. This concept of justice is based on Pareto optimality. Okay. Anybody from economics background? Okay. So his idea of justice is based on Pareto optimality. That means if I try to understand it technically, that okay, how this distribution should be. Okay. So he's saying this distribution should be Pareto optimal distribution. What is Pareto optimality? ठीक है, इकोनॉमिक्स में नहीं, पबाइड में है ये. What is Pareto optimality? Nicholas Henry is a book. Okay, Public Administration and Public Affairs, very important book for UPSC. Okay, quite old book. So he has used the term that how the distribution has to be Pareto optimal. Okay, now let us say, so let us say there is an example. There are two people. Okay, he is poor and he is rich. Okay. Let us assume that he has one sheep, one cow. Okay, he has 4 sheep, 4 cows. Now government says that I will make you rich. Okay, so what should government do? Is it absolute poverty? It is relative poverty. It's relative poverty. Okay, you can accept relative poverty, but still he is poor. Okay. He might have this, but he might not have the resources. Okay. So let us say government says, okay, we'll make you rich. Okay. We'll add now 3 to this and 3 to this. We'll add it now. Okay. Now you go. You are also rich and he is also rich. At least a sense of relative poverty is not there now. Okay. Now government does it and says, now both of you enjoy your life because both of you are rich now. Okay. Now there is a grassland of 5 hectares nearby. Okay, obviously they have to feed on something. Okay, they need fodder. So the cattle goes to this grassland. Okay, both of them because they are living in vicinity. So 5 upon, earlier the rate of consumption, 5 upon 10. Okay, initially. Now when both are rich, now what is the rate of consumption? 5 by 16. The depletion of the fodder will take place faster or not? What will happen eventually? Almost doubled हो गया. At least 0.75 times हो गया. More. So what happens now? Now the depletion of the natural resource will be faster. A day will come when there is no fodder for the cattle of both of them. Eventually they will die. So what is going to be the outcome? Ultimately both will become poor. Now this kind of strategy is not correct, which the utilitarianism is trying to do. So justice denies it. Justice says no, this is not possible. Should not distribute the resource this way. You must distribute the resource in such a manner that even if there is a little amount of inequality, this inequality should not be at the cost or detriment to the others. That means if you are promoting somebody, it should not be at the cost of demoting somebody. Okay. So they use the concept of Pareto optimality. So justice says that justice comes with the concept of fairness. So it says that if you will distribute the resources of the society fairly, having a scope for inequality or at least a disparity among various sections, if it is fair, it will be acceptable. Supreme Court in the judgment Mandal case, what it is saying, the reservation should not extend beyond the 50%. Because then it will become inequitable. So Pareto optimality says that one should benefit, but not at the cost of other. So the day you are creating inequalities in the society, or at least don't say inequality, you are promoting the discrimination in the society in favor of certain communities. The day it becomes, or it leads to the detriment of benefits of others, that day it will become inequitable. So he comes with his concept, John Rawls, okay, a very famous concept known as veil of ignorance. So veil of ignorance says that, okay, there might be a time when none of us would be knowing what is a social, religious, cultural differentiation between us. innocence. Okay, the veil of ignorance is what? That stage of innocence when we do not know or have any awareness of the socio-cultural disparities in the society. Now he's saying, now imagine that go there and from there now try to distribute the resources. Is it possible that you distribute the resources, whatever you are doing today? There is an inherent criteria of the caste, culture, community, religion, this, whosoever is distributing and whosoever is getting both. So he's saying that the ideal distribution, fair distribution would be when? When we go to that or when we have that veil of ignorance, we go back. Whatever distribution we are doing today, it will never be ideal. So he's saying at least if we are creating the disparities in the society, must create in such a manner that it is not, or the comfort of one is not at the cost of discomfort of the others. Okay, so for that, he's saying that, okay, how we can do this distribution? Through the Pareto optimality, or the distribution must be Pareto optimal. Okay. So let's say there is a value y. Okay, corresponding to this y value, there is a value x. Okay, I'll just give you an example. Let us say industrialization. Okay. The more industrialized you will be, what will happen? Okay, let us say at the other end is the value of forest conservation or environmental conservation. More green cover. Okay, so the more you industrialize, less green cover. The more green cover you want, obviously it will have a negative impact on industrialization. So this graph would be something like this. Okay. Assume reservation, let us say merit, reservation, inclusion, okay, after a point of time, okay, or so many trade-offs are there. Whenever we promote something, there will always be the trade-off with something else. Empower women, increase the laws related to protection of women, ultimately it will be at the detriment of the males. Domestic Violence Act, Dowry Prohibition Act, Section 498A, okay, 376, and so on and so on and so on. If you see, misuse. So it is very obvious that in the society the resources come in pairs. The issues come in pairs, they are not alone. If I increase one, the other will have to suffer. If I increase the other will have to suffer. So he's saying that, okay, how we can distribute it? So this distribution must be Pareto optimal. What is Pareto optimal distribution? He's saying find out at least, however theoretical, a point where the increase in one is not at the cost of the other, or one's benefit is not at the cost of other. That means what? Here both the values are in equilibrium. And see, this is very essential. If you say judgment on reservation and the Supreme Court would have said no, 75% reservation, like Tamil Nadu. Okay. So what would have happened? Obviously more revolt, more conflict. So you see, your policies, your decisions, okay, they must incorporate for this. Otherwise, whatever judgments or decisions you are going to take, they will have a negative impact on the society. Whether it is a policy, whether it is economic policy, social policy, any policy. Okay. If you provide excessive protection to minorities, there will be a revolt in the form of the BJP government. So policy of appeasement, okay, leading to one particular ideology, polarization of one value. So if they had played more sensibly, the Congress would have again come to power, no doubt. But they allowed the BJP to polarize the vote. Okay. Now they are excessively polarizing the vote. So they might also face the consequences. Fine. So every act must be based on the calculation or at least an evaluation of that whether this act is Pareto optimal or not. So we want a rational distribution, And this rational distribution must be based on the proper evaluation, that is Pareto optimal value. So he's saying, when will the justice be served? The justice will be served when the values of the society or the policies or public interest is designed in such a manner that it is Pareto optimal. Okay, right. Okay, the concept of justice is based on the idea of justice as fairness. Justice as fairness. That is, right, that is, the public interest can be best served when the public interest can be best served when the distribution is, or distribution of resource, you can write, the distribution of resource, comma, opportunities, the distribution of resource, comma, opportunities, comma, benefits is done in such a manner, that the benefit to one or one section, you can write, the benefit to one section does not result in the loss to the other section. Create, next line लिखिए, create deliberate disparities. Create deliberate disparities. Disparity does not mean exploitation here. Create deliberate disparities in such a way that the section which is promoted benefits, whereas the section which is losing or loses, you can write, whereas the section which loses, lose matlab not lose, हारना नहीं है यहाँ पे, जाना, going, loses, must not feel the pinch of losing. Feel the pinch of losing. It will be more clear with an example. Okay. For example, the taxation structure. Okay, India has kind of taxation, proportional, progressive. Progressive and proportional, what is the difference? But here progressive and fixed, ये भी तो बोलो, fixed है ना भाई, एक time के beyond तो नहीं है ना, so it is progressive as well as fixed. Proportional fixed नहीं होता है, जैसे से income बढ़ेगा, tax बढ़ता जाएगा, नहीं. But logic is, now see, if we have made a progressive taxation, it is fine, it is equitable, because the people who are earning more will earn more. But after a point of time, it is fixed. ऐसा नहीं कि 500 करोड़ कमाओगे तो 75% टैक्स देना पड़ेगा, ये तो नहीं है ना, तो 30% ही देना पड़ेगा. 30 लाख कमाओ तो भी 30% दोगे और 500 करोड़ कमाओ तो भी 30% दोगे. So what is the logic? That the taxation structure is what? It has inbuilt equity. Let us imagine now that people who are earning more will start paying more and more tax. what will happen? A time will come when this will start pinching them. That earning money is a kind of crime. So what they will do now? They will start evading or accounting their money. So they will create black money, promote parallel economy. Ultimately, it will be against the public interest. Okay. Or for matter, regressive taxation, which was there in France. Okay. People who earn less should be taxed more. ये भी equitable है. Some people may prefer that people who earn less should be taxed more, so that they get or they are incentivized for earning more. ठीक है, but it is a negative reinforcement. वो भी equitable नहीं है. So likewise they are saying that like taxation structure, positive discrimination, and there are so many, or the gender biasness or whatever, which is reflected at the various levels in the society. So if we are creating the discrimination or inequalities, we must structure the inequalities in such a manner it does not seem to be unequal. ठीक है, ऐसा लगना नहीं चाहिए कि हो रहा है. ठीक है, and reality में भी नहीं होना चाहिए. That is what the logic is. So he is saying that it must not pinch the other. The moment it will do it, okay, your distribution will suffer. Okay. The distribution under justice must be Pareto optimal. That is the most rational distribution between two opposing values traded off in such a manner that they achieve an equilibrium. Okay, that is why we are writing two opposing values. They achieve an equilibrium. So one will increase, but the other will not decrease. Okay. Whether you apply it on reservation, whether you apply on the fuel prices, whether you apply on the wealth tax or the taxing the rich or whatever the Jaitley was talking about, okay, and so many things. Okay, Google tax, okay, whatever you say, anything which the government applies, obviously it needs to evaluate that it is Pareto optimal or not. Otherwise, the law of averages, पढ़ा है क्या होता है? Or law of marginal utilities. After a point of time, the benefit will decrease. Okay, that is what the logic is. So you see how empirically he has evaluated. Scientific evaluation of a public policy or the public interest. Okay, but ये इतना भी easy नहीं है. It is not an easy where there is a population is huge, resources are less. Okay, trade-offs cannot be done so rational. It is very difficult. So many of the public policies made in the third world countries, they may not have a rational distribution, or they may not result in Pareto optimal distribution of resource. Or you can say that public interest may not be Pareto optimal because of the existing resource or the limited resources of the third world countries. They will have to deliberately give more to somebody. क्यों? क्योंकि disparity इतनी ज़्यादा है. You see, India, few or certain percentage of population occupying most of the or 80% of the resources of the country. 80-20 rule which we say. So 20% has 80% resource and 80% has 20% resource. So you can imagine the kind of distribution we have. Now how is it possible here that you redistribute it and the others don't feel the pinch? Impossible. So the state will have to create deliberate discrimination, and sometimes this discrimination may result in the discomfort for various population, and it does result in this kind of discomfort, no doubt. Okay. So justice was, or most acceptable philosophy is justice. But yes, when now we have studied the public interest from the Western perspective. Okay. But there are some Indian philosophers also. Okay, or people who have contributed from the Indian perspective also. Okay, like Amartya Sen. Okay, now his view of public interest is the most contemporary. Okay, first he criticizes the Amartya Sen's book, Idea of Justice. Now you see the name of the book itself. So the John Rawls book, Theory of Justice, and Amartya Sen's book, Idea of Justice. What is the difference between the meaning of the term idea and the meaning of the term theory?
So idea is any thought which comes to your mind, and theory is when you manifest that in principles.
Idea, which is more flexible? Idea. So which is more creative? Idea. Which gives you more creative freedom? Idea, no? Okay, what he is trying to convey is something, that same logic is here. He is saying idea of justice. He said instead of theory of justice, by using the term theory, John Rawls is making it rigid. He is universalizing the model of justice. Whereas justice means, or the public interest would mean, different things to different contexts. Are you getting this point? So what? He starts with the criticism of the John Rawls. Okay, the theory of justice criticized by the Amartya Sen. And he's saying that the word theory itself means that he's trying to homogenize it. He wants to universalize it. He's having a rigid notion of the justice or the public interest, where he's saying the justice may have certain common principles, but justice is very contextual in nature. Okay. For a tribal person, for a tribal population, for a tribal woman, the justice would mean something else. Justice is equally important for an urban woman as important for the rural women. Okay. He evaluates the famous Bengal famine. Okay. एक 1870s में हुआ था, एक सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर के बाद हुआ था. So, Robert Clive, when the Battle of Buxar and Plassey, पढ़ा होगा भाई. So he earned huge money during that. Okay. Later, in the Second World War, the famous Bengal famine, almost 40 lakh people were affected by that. Okay. So he starts his evaluation from there. Okay. And he's saying that even if I accept that there is disparity, the state's capacity, resource is limited, okay, distribution may not have been fair because of various reasons, but it should not be the basis of injustice to the people. He's saying if the state is there, government is existing, that means the justice must be given. So he uses this argument. He's saying that there is a famous Bengal famine, okay, but famine is basically not natural. Okay, he's saying drought can be natural. Sukha. Drought is natural, but he's saying famine is not natural. Starvation or death due to starvation is not natural. Okay. So natural disaster is drought, not famine. Famine indicates that the distribution has not been fair. Deliberately a section has been left impoverished. So if there is enough food grain to sustain the country and people are dying of starvation, what does it mean? The distribution is wrong. Now imagine today India, one of the highest producers of food grain, okay, sugar, even cereals, even dal, pulses, okay, soya bean. Okay. Why so many people are, why there has to be need of a midday meal scheme? Okay. Why should there be something like a midday meal scheme? What is it? It is basically glorifying the lack of food grain or lack of basic essentials, amenities in households in India. It is accepting that yes, an average Indian household does not have enough food grain to fend for his child. That is what the logic is. But then why is the claim in the economic survey, or for that matter in number of other books, which they are saying that India is one of the highest producer, India has surplus to the extent of this? That means what? If your PDS system has not worked, public distribution system, if your distribution has, or state has not distributed, district administration has not done it, your local governments have failed, then why they have failed? Because of your policy. So he's saying it is not because of the lack of food grain that people are dying. It is because of the lack of availability or distribution of the food grain. Okay. So if your yield is less, your produce is less, productivity is less, then at least we can agree that okay, yes. Okay, Indian agriculture is a gamble on monsoons. Okay. But in spite of having huge food grains in the FCI, in the state, food corporation or whatever warehouses, and still people are dying of hunger, that means what? The state has deliberately not distributed the resource. Okay. So he starts with his argument. He says that cannot be acceptable that in modern states or in the developed states who have surplus food grain production, people are dying of hunger. It is not acceptable. So he brings, it is not his idea, but he has, as a counter to the John Rawls, he brings his concept of, or two, you can say, important concepts: capabilities approach, serving the public interest. One is the capabilities approach. The second, entitlements. Okay, capabilities approach and entitlements approach. Okay, what is this approach saying? Okay, entitlement, let us first take that. Okay. He's saying that whatever it was given in 1930s, Robert Nozick, it is not given by Amartya Sen, but yes, you can say he's brought back the idea again. Okay. So entitlements approach, Amartya Sen says that okay, food grain or food, housing, clothing, some basic amenities, what? These are the rights which people have over the state. It is not a privilege which the state or the government is giving to the people. So government cannot deny any of these to the people. Are you understanding me? That these are the basic entitlements which people are supposed to get from the state. So the legitimacy, the power, the authority that you have being a state, a government, okay, that basically comes from the idea that you are able to provide these basic amenities to the people. If not, okay, then your entire legitimacy has been eroded. So he's saying that because you are a state, you are government, it becomes your duty to provide these things. You cannot claim that you have done something extraordinary by providing basic amenities to the people. And only when these basic amenities are available, then people can increase their capabilities. So he's saying what you talk about empowerment. Empowerment is not right to food. Empowerment is not basic health. Empowerment is not a job. He's saying once these basic things are fulfilled, then the process of empowerment will start. You have basic money, at least per day 100 rupees income, then you can think of something creative, no? You are assured that okay, I will have 2 chapatis available today. Okay, so he is saying that most of the policies, programs that are being made, let's say even in countries like India, what is it? They are fulfilling the basic needs. They are not increasing or they are not creating any qualitative change in life. They are only doing basic. Now Narega. Okay. Now government is claiming Narega. Narega क्या कर रहा है? What is Narega doing? Narega क्या करेगा? हाँ. बताओ. Narega क्या कर रहा है? Would you like to work under Narega? Then how do you claim it is a very good scheme? Because you assume, you feel that okay, 60% of the people in this country do not have basic amenities, so at least they will get a 2 square meal day through the Narega. Now, is that the aim? Is that the target which the government should have? Even if you are expanding the Narega, okay, now let us say you have added the skill component to that. Earlier it was basically labor intensive. Okay. Now there is a skill component. Okay. So what will happen? People will learn few skills, fine. They will create some new structures. But does that assure them a job in the urban area? Does that assure them job in a good company? No. So the logic is what? That you see Narega, or you see this right to food, or Antodaya Anna Yojana. Okay. Deen Dayal Upadhyay Antodaya Yojana, DAY, various schemes. Okay. So all these schemes are what? They are designed for what? They are designed for catering to only basic needs. बहुत पहले गवर्नमेंट ने एक बेसिक नीड्स प्रोग्राम बनाया था, मिनिमम नीड्स प्रोग्राम. Okay. So many programs under the minimum needs program. Okay, what is the purpose? Okay, it is only the survival. So your existence is what? Just like a physical human being, nothing more than that. Whereas he is saying that what is development? Okay, what is public interest? So in developing countries, the idea of public interest has been very elementary, catering to only the basic needs of the people. The idea of empowerment is what? That women must be or should have the opportunity to step out of the house, that's it. Or at least she will have the option of going to the terrace. That is what the idea of empowerment is in the rural areas. She must not wear that ghungat. So she is not wearing ghungat, now she thinks I am empowered. Okay. So that means what? He is trying to convey the same logic, that most of the states, the governments, they have assumed the basic needs, or they have confused the basic needs with empowerment. Are you understanding this logic? Confusing the basic needs with empowerment. Okay. So your father also must be calculating at times कि इतना रेंट है, अच्छा इतने में खाना हो जाएगा और 100-200 रुपए और चाहिए एक्स्ट्रा. ठीक है, वैसे ही स्टेट भी कैलकुलेट करता है. Estimation of poverty, imagine RBI governor saying that people who are earning 27 rupees per day, they are not poor. Okay, he claimed, no, RBI governor. Okay, how can you say 27 rupees per day is not poor? What will you get in 27 rupees? So he might have said, later he added a calorie requirement will be fulfilled. Okay, what does it mean? What is he eating? Some nuclear energy? 27 rupees. 27 रुपए में क्या मिलेगा? Okay. So you can calculate, okay, 1 kg potato, and 1 kg potato is calorie rich, so he might buy 1 kg potato in 20 rupees and he will eat it throughout the day. Okay, but that is not a qualitative food, is it? So logic is that, see, he is saying that what we have done, we are fulfilling only the basic needs. Okay, and this approach we have accepted as the empowerment. So state must provide the basic needs and then the capabilities approach. That is, then the empowerment may start. So Amartya Sen defines that development is much more than this. Development is expansion of freedom. Okay, his concept, development as freedom. So he's saying, what is freedom? The freedom of choice. So the more my choices increase, choice means my quality of life. So I will have basic input as money or a house or few clothes or a basic job. Okay, then obviously my choice will increase. So first my basic needs must be met, then my qualitative life must start. So unless I get that qualitative life, there is nothing like public interest. So he's saying in the developing countries, the public interest confused with only the basic needs, whereas public interest is what? It is a broader concept. Okay. Increasing the capabilities of people so that they can expand their freedom. So it is not just getting an education, It is about how to use that education. So if a female is given a choice, then she must have the decision, or she must have the power to make choices regarding various things, not just what to study and what not to study. Okay, so he's bringing the entire concept of rights, justice into that. So he's expanding the idea of justice, of the wrongs. He's saying, what is justice? Justice is my right to exercise the choice. If the state policies, the government policies, the programs and decisions are expanding my choices, then obviously we are developing, or the public interest being served. If my choices are decreasing, let's say 1950 to 2017, so as an individual, if my choices have decreased, that means what? There has been virtually no development of the state. African states, Middle Eastern countries, many of them. Okay. You see, recently if you see the rise of the rightist governments throughout the world, that may be also indication of certain things. We'll discuss that much later. But there are so many events which are happening, which indicate that we may be growing economically, but our choices are not growing in the same proportion. Okay, so if you are in America, US, working in US, Manhattan, okay, so obviously your choice or living style will be different. Okay, but let's say because of terrorist attack, because of immigration laws, because of visa restrictions, you come back here, okay, and you get the same amount of salary, it's okay. India has also the paying capacity today. So you get the same amount of money here also. Now what happens? Economic growth is similar, but choices reduced. You living in urban areas, your choices are more. Okay, you might be earning the same money from the agriculture, but you stay in the rural area, choice is restricted. Justice delivery and so many things. People who are staying in those states which are perpetually in conflict, imagine with the same type of democratic system, with the same level of judicial system, with the same type of bureaucracy, their choices are much less compared to us. एक रिक्शे वाले का चॉइस अर्बन एरिया में ज्यादा है कंपेयर टू एक अच्छे खासे आदमी का चॉइस रूरल एरिया में. समझ रहे हो क्यों? बिजली नहीं है बेचारा, क्या करेगा? चॉइस बढ़ गया ना, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी होने से उसकी चॉइस बढ़ गई. ठीक है, सिनेमा हॉल नहीं है, क्या करेगा? यहाँ पे है, he has the option to go there, entertain himself. He has various modes of transport, he can go. They cannot. Okay. रोड ही नहीं है, modes of transport तो बात की बात है. So logic is, see how even if you have economic, even if you have money, even if you economically prosper, it might not translate into choice. Okay, so his concept of public interest or the concept of the interest within the developing country बहुत broad है. इतना समझ में आया? ठीक है, ज्यादा ज्ञान हो जाएगा तबीयत खराब हो जाएगी. ठीक है, क्वेश्चन लिखो. So less knowledge, less confusion, that is the best way. Right. Okay, is it possible to define public interest? Is it possible to define public interest? Okay. If so, next part of the same question. If so, what are the possible philosophies of public interest? Philosophies of public interest, and how they act as a guide to the government decision making. How they act as a guide to the government decision making. Second question. Perfectionism may justify the absence of socially conscious policies. Perfectionism may justify the absence of socially conscious policies. Explain. Third question. compared to utilitarianism, justice seems to be a more pragmatic approach to public interest. Give your views. The word limit need not be imposed, but you might or you should try writing it in not more than 100 words. Only 100 words, write in points. Okay. You can increase 150, it's okay. Will you be able to attempt? Or need not write. Can you write some points? Bring it tomorrow. Either in your notebook or on a piece of paper. So we can discuss in the class itself, 5 minutes in the beginning. Okay. See you tomorrow then. Okay, tomorrow I might be 15 minutes late, so 11:45 I may start. But you come 11:30. I am saying I might be. Okay, it is not sure.